Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media, all the disinformation and misinformation. We want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening, and as this awakening is happening, people realize they've been deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Hello. Welcome to Total Truth Show, episode 115, The Truth About the Media, Part 2. We had our amazing guest on our last show, and we loved it so much. We have him back again. We have the amazing Shameer Lorde with us in the house, all the way from Brooklyn in New York. And we have Ken Kleinberg, of course, my co-host from San Diego. How are you going there, Ken?
I am doing amazing.
Brilliant. And now a little bit about Shameer. He's an Army veteran, an audio engineer, entrepreneur, and the voice behind Mia Speaks. Born and raised in Brooklyn, he brings raw stories, real lessons, and unapologetic energy. He's not here to follow the wave. He is the wave. I love that. Through his work, his words, and his vision, Shameer empowers others to unlock their purpose and build a legacy, helping others become the best version of themselves. And don't we need that now more than ever? And I do remember on our last show, we were chatting about the aftermath of 9/11 in New York. Of course, you shared a bit about what the feeling is like in New York. So for those who missed a bit of that, can you maybe recap, because you were there when it all happened, weren't you? And what's it like now, all these years later?
Well, compared to then, especially at that time, I was like in middle school, and like I stated before, I had friends who their parents were supposed to go into the World Trade Center, and thankfully, one of them, their parents was late getting into work, because that's one thing about New York. You can always guarantee your train might be early, or your train might be late, or it might be delayed, and it might not come at all. So, thankfully, the New York Transit, saved her mom's life. We had to go home early, and all you saw on the news was people falling from the buildings, everything collapsing. And that was just everything you saw that was on the TV, the newspapers. It was just like they were just shoving it in your face all the time. I remember when we first went to just visit, it was just so much cloud and so much dust. It was still dusty, weeks later. It just was like, man. It's crazy. I mean, now is almost like it never happened. Almost, It's just like 9/11. They got a little, not even a little, but they got a memorial. But it's like it's still kind of like it really never happened, because everybody's going about their day, and it's New York, right? It's New York. So.
Yeah, and I remember visiting the memorial actually when I went to New York, and the feeling there, the very somber feeling, even though they've got that sort of water fountain effect there, etc. It's interesting, all the evidence that has come out since then that it was an inside job, which of course at the time many people didn't want to believe that. And of course, if you do your own research, you will see so much evidence that it was an inside job. And it is hard to believe sometimes that, politicians and people behind the banking system and the people behind the governments even, don't have our best interests at heart.
Right.
We've been so well, brought up to trust authority, and now there is such massive mistrust of authority because we've been used and abused and lied to for so many years, and people have had enough. And now people are taking their power into their own hands, and now they're joining other communities and like-minded people, which is partly why we do the Total Truth Show, is to encourage people to question everything. Question everything, because what you may believe to be true may not be true, and by getting informed you can actually make some empowered choices for yourself. So I love the fact that you help others become the best version of themselves. What are some ways that you do this, Shameer?
Well, mentorship. A lot of times I'm always helping other people, giving business advice, or even helping drop limiting beliefs. That's a thing that kind of was put on us, that we had no say in the matter. It's kind of like, oh, these are the facts and this is what it is. And then you start believing those things about yourself to be true. So it's all about stating those beliefs and then challenging those beliefs so that you can actually realize that they're false. They're a narrative that either somebody else created for you and you believed it, or you might have created it yourself. Because I like to say all the time, we are the master of our own prison. Like, we create these prisons for ourselves and wonder why we got into it, but it was our fault. We put ourselves these places, and then we try to blame everybody else, but it's really us. It's really us.
Yes, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 98% are the same as yesterday for most people, and 80% are negative for most people. So often we are our worst enemies just by what we're thinking, by the dramas that we create also in our own minds, because there's many things we can't control. There's many atrocities going on in the world right now that we cannot control, and all we can do is do our little bit to make a difference, really. Whereas if we all throw our hands up and go, oh well, what can I do as little old me, well, that's not the right attitude. Then nothing's going to shift if we all say that, right? So I do
one
believe
person could change everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One person can change, and one person will change everything. And then imagine if those one person just becomes a multitude of people working as one unit, we can really change everything.
Well, the ripple effect that can come from one person's brave choice can have massive impact. And that's the thing is, we do impact people all around us all the time, and we're often not conscious to that. We're either bringing the energy up around us or we're taking the energy down. So when we talk about the media here, the truth about the media, of course, I've had about 40 years media experience myself in traditional media, and I saw how a lot of these stories, like when 9/11 happened, we were seeing the same news across all the, traditional media channels, or TV, radio, print were dishing out the same stories because of the same stories everywhere, and it was blasted everywhere. And so whenever something got blasted across all the media, I would always question, why is this getting blasted everywhere above all other news? This is getting blasted everywhere, and the same kinds of stories going out. And as a journalist too, we were told at times to get angles of stories that weren't there as well. So there was, all sorts of things going on behind the scenes where it's not necessarily the journalist's fault. It's just, often editorial control, or the people behind the editors or behind the news corporations, etc., are pushing certain agendas, and often those agendas are tied in with the advertising dollar that they're getting from certain sponsors. And there were times, there was one time I remember a journalist actually spoke out against one of the biggest advertisers that we had for the Sun newspapers, and from that moment forward she actually lost her job because she spoke out against one of the advertisers, and because the paper relied on that advertising money, they basically sacked the journalist over it. And we've got a story at the moment, actually. There's an ABC journalist that has spoken out against Israel of what's happening in Gaza, and she lost her job over it, and now she's suing ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, over that. And the ABC spent $2 million on lawyers fighting this case, and they're wanting to offer her $36,000 in compensation, right? It's just insane.
Wow. What a joke.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And, it's almost like, what happened to freedom of speech?
What happened to truth?
And what happened to truth? And what happened to people speaking their truth and encouraging people to question reality? It's almost like, no one can say anything against Israel, or else you're anti-Semitic, and you're going to be branded as, whatever. You can't talk against this. You can't talk about that. And, we saw with Julian Assange, he revealed amazing information that woke the world up to so many things. And what happens? He ends up in prison for 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's and yet, you know, he's one of the bravest men that I know out there, and I applaud him. And he will go down in history as an absolute legend for exposing great truths that should never have been hidden from the public anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Things like Pizzagate and, you know, the child sex slavery and abuse that has happened amongst politicians, and, you know, the whole Epstein Island, all of that, right? And yeah, so interesting.
It's crazy how you said the Epstein, because it seemed like, you know, after his death, they just kind of got quiet. Everybody kind of got quiet, and I really don't even believe that he died from suicide. I can't believe that at all.
I don't believe it either. And I saw them report about that again in the news here in Australia. They reported about Epstein committed suicide in prison. And I thought that, in my gut, I thought that's actually not true. They've actually just hidden his identity. And he has been seen in other places. So there is evidence of him actually being seen elsewhere since that. So, you know, the versions of reality that we're given, you know, by the media, and, you know, how do you know the truth, right? How do you know? Sometimes we tend to trust the information that we get. And this is where more and more people now are starting their own shows. They're starting their own podcasts. We are the media now with sharing, and we can share our truth. And your gut knows. The thing is, even if you're not there, your gut knows. I knew when COVID got rolled out, I knew in my gut there's something off about this whole pandemic, and they're still rolling out. They're still saying on mainstream media how they're encouraging children to get the jab. I'm thinking, how can anyone in their right mind have children 2 years of age get the jab and not expect side effects? Like, you potentially, you might as well get a gun and play Russian roulette, put some bullets in there, and just see if you die. Does it go off? And that's what people are doing with their lives. You know, they're because they believe the media and they think it's safe to do certain things.
But I think that goes into what you said about trusting the government. You know, we've been taught from even an early age to trust the government. I mean, I think in my situation, it might be a little bit different because, you know, we're taught not to trust the police because the police, they don't care nothing about you. But then you start to see it's not even just the police, it's the government at whole. All the rich people are in this together. So we're expendable at this point. And the whole point of COVID was, all right, let's take down this population. And at this point, it's like, how can we get them down even further? But I just don't even understand what's the science behind it all, because either way, it's really all about control.
Yep. And the depopulation agenda we talked about last time that Ken was talking about as well. Down to 500 million, right, Ken?
Yeah, down to 500 million. That was their goal. The other thing, you know, around COVID was it was supposed to be a thing to, so obviously they didn't expect for a mass awakening. They didn't expect that. What they expected us to do is just comply, obey, and then what the original plan apparently was is so not just depopulation, not just control. The original plan was to get everybody locked down, get them used to these waves of lockdowns and get them used to this. And then Hillary was supposed to become president in 2016. And she was supposed to lead us into the next World War III, which then the United States would not win. So I'm putting quotations around that because it was being fabricated that the United States wouldn't win this particular war. So bye-bye to our Constitution, and you can kind of figure out the rest. That was the original plan. And Trump actually came in and thwarted that plan. He actually interrupted that complete plan. So it just wasn't about control. I mean, that 100%, you know, all those things. But the bigger picture and so much more of it was they were going to bring us to war, and we were going to lose that war on purpose because they want to do away with our Constitution.
Interesting. Yes, yes. Very, very interesting. Question everything, my friends. And those joining us, hello, hello. Welcome aboard. For those on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're tuning in, let us know where are you joining us from now. And what are your thoughts about the changing face of the media? Now, of course, 2018, we had 500,000 podcasts. We talked about now there's over 5 million podcasts in the world. More and more people are becoming now influencers, are sharing their own media. You don't have to have the traditional media or journalism background, as I did for many years, where, you know, we did way back in the day. We used to do photography in dark rooms with the old negative photos, you know, back in, it just feels like a lifetime ago now. And I resisted going to digital photography for many years because I thought film photography is always going to be better. You get better skin tones, et cetera, et cetera. And now look at the world of digital photography. It's insane. So whether we like it or not, the media is changing rapidly, and we are getting bombarded with information at a cracking rate. It's insane how much information. Ken was just talking about this before we came on live, actually, how much information is out there right now. And so what do you believe? What don't you believe? Well, what I do know is that we've had a lot of censorship through the whole pandemic period, particularly on Facebook and YouTube, and it continues to this day. The censorship continues. So I always think, look, there's not to hide why the censorship. So what we've also seen with the changing face of media is we have platforms like Telegram, we have Signal, we have truth channels out there, BitChute, Rumble, where you will get uncensored information. So if you really want to know what's going on in the world, have a look at some of these other platforms and some of the content on some of these platforms, which you will never see on YouTube, and you will never see on Facebook, some of this stuff. Even TikTok, TikTok's pretty good. It lets through some things that not that censored. LinkedIn's a great platform, of course, for business. You'll see all sorts of things in there, but really do your research and look across multiple different platforms. Don't just Google everything. Use other search engines as well. What are some other search engines, guys, that are good that aren't really censored search engines?
So one in particular that I tend to use is it's called Yandex, WANDEX.com. And so that's one of them. I use that one when I really want to find stuff that Google or the other mainstream search engines won't show me. The other thing about it is I'm going to tell you straight up: Google, Bing, Yahoo, MSN, there's a few other search engines as well that are all mainstream. If you really want to dig and you really want to dig and find the truth and not be bombarded by a bunch of mainstream shit, to put it plainly and bluntly, then you're going to need to not use those search engines anymore. I personally don't anymore. The only time I use Google is when I actually want to find what they're saying, so that I can then point it out and make fun of it. Otherwise, I'm using things like Yandex. There's another one, Pre-Search, and then there's a few others. But you want to find some alternative search engines that you can cycle through when you're really doing the research. Don't just look once. Don't just do a search and just go da-da-da. Oh, look, I found a couple articles. Go to other search engines. Check out what you're going to find there. Like, really do the deep diving. This is the work that I think people need to remember to stick with, especially in our AI age. It could be so easy for someone to say, oh, I'll just ask AI. And then AI is going to find whatever it finds for me and da-da-da-da. There's a time and a place for that, I'll admit. But when I'm really wanting to deep dive on something, I really like the traditional ways of searching. I mean, let's say we get somebody that's watching our show that's maybe 70, 80 years old, and they're watching our show. They're just like, well, back in my day, we went to the library and that was our deep research. Well, okay, yes. Even still, that can prove useful as well. There's also things like there's a web archive that you can go to. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but it's a web archive that you can find for pages that have been taken down, for other things that have been censored. There are people on the internet that have saved certain web pages that have been taken down and different things like that. You can still access the old versions of those web pages, so you can do your research that way. I I wish I can remember what that archive is called. Usually it's at the top of my head, but anyhow, so I mean, it's really, really important that you don't just use one search engine, and certainly don't use the mainstream ones anymore, because they are, if you notice, like for example, Google will, if you go and you ask Google, what's the best source of protein? Well, the mainstream media has a large plant-based agenda out there. And I actually have a large book called The Plant-Based Con. More on that maybe on a later topic or a later show. But Google will spit out all these plant-based versions of protein. You go to other search engines that aren't mainstream, that are off the beaten path, and you're going to get the real truth. You're going to get, oh, our ancient ancestors have been eating animal proteins for thousands of years with little to no mortality issues. Oh, this and oh, that. Oh, once we started turning from all this, that's where all the obesity and mortality issues, heart attacks, coronary heart disease started showing up. Oh, you're going to find out all that. So that's kind of just an example of what I'm saying. And in order to find those on mainstream media, you're going to have to dig pages and pages and pages pretty far till you finally start finding the people that have been buried down on those search engines to find the truth.
Yes, thank you for that, Ken. And I actually just did a search of some search engines that focus on privacy and avoiding personalized filter bubbles, as they call it. And it came up with Brave Search, DuckDuckGo, Quant.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, QWANT, and Swiss cows, some of them that you might want to look at. Swiss cows, as in SWIS cows. Now, interesting about the plant con. Now, I am, I'd say 99% vegetarian, and Ken loves meat, right? So we have a very interesting dynamic with Ken and I. Now, recently I came across something called Curlian photography. Have you heard about this? Curlian photography.
I have not, but let me press a pause on what you're about to share there. Hold your thought. Don't lose it, because I don't want you to lose that thought. So the archive that I was trying to remember, which just came to me, you can find it at web.archive.org, and it's called The Wayback Machine. And it is a resource for a lot of different things. You can find a lot of different things there. So anyhow, unpause, Aldwyn. Continue.
Wayback Machine is great to look up old websites as well. But anyway, yeah, Curlian photography, KIRLIAN. It shows you the energy of certain food and how the energetic properties of the food you're eating changes when it's cooked or when it's raw, when it's organic food, when it's not organic food. And it actually has a picture there of steak versus apple. And this is what I want to point out to you, Ken. I think you'll find this fascinating, the energetic properties of your food. The steak, when you look at the steak picture versus the apple picture, like the apple is like radiating with energy, and the steak, there's only little sparks of energy off the steak, because a lot of people sort of refer to it as rotting flesh. Do you really want to, eat rotting carcasses, really? And I know you'll have another version of this. I know people eat and they swear by it, and each to their own on this, okay? However, do your research again. And I found it fascinating when I looked at this photography around the energy of different foods and when we eat raw food versus cooked food. And of course, the media will go and get your fast food and have your, seed oils, and people don't think about how the seed oils just creates fat in your body, etc. And again, the media influences everything. It influences how we do health, how we do families, how we do, you look at the Hollywood movies and what we might consider to be romantic, and what an ideal relationship should look like, and how we can create drama in our lives, because we have Netflix, which is all focused around dramas. And so a lot of people just feel life has to be one big drama as well. So really notice how you do life and how influenced is it by the media. Shameer, what are your thoughts on that? And I don't know if you're really into health like Ken is, but energetic frequencies, and of course those know about map of consciousness and power versus force and Dr. Hawkins scale of consciousness. We're 99.9% energy, frequency, vibration. And I was looking online at someone speaking about this the other day. We have a high energy food that actually increase our personal vibration when we have high energy foods, as opposed to low energy foods like fast fast foods, for example, will lower our vibration. That's where people, that's what I guess happen in parts of the world, right? People have lunch and then they just want to sleep.
Yep.
The energy goes right down. So really getting conscious to this, I think, is crucial. What are your thoughts, Shameer?
I think it's so important what you put in your body. I don't think I could ever go vegetarian. I tried it for a week when I was living in California, and I was like, yeah, not for me. But at one point I did go pescatarian, and I definitely felt better just eating fish. I only eat red meat here and there because I'm anemic, so I eat it when my body tells me, okay, you need to have some red meat. That's the only time I'll eat it. But yeah, it's so crazy when you realize that everything is geared toward how to live. Everything that you see in life right now has been displayed already in the movies. It's like they gave you a preview of what was coming, and nobody realized it was coming because they thought of it as entertainment. Mm-hmm. They thought of it as just entertainment. You see all these movies. I think there's a movie called Immortals, and the downfall of society was technology. So they had to bury it in the cave because once they let out technology, everybody was against each other. Things were just going awry. So it makes you wonder, when is that downfall going to happen, or has it already happened and we on a curve of trying to pick it up? Because like you said, vibrations, people don't even understand the things you watch that affects your vibrations. That's why I pick a time and place when I watch certain things. If I'm not in the place to actually receive it, I'm like, you know what? This is a little bit too heavy. I can't even watch this. But everything that they try to push to you at this point is negative, 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 murder, 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 crime, crime, crime. Be scared. So the key is be scared, be scared, be scared. And then it's oh, we'll take care of you, but you're part of the reason why we're scared.
Exactly. Fear is what the media feed off. And how do they divide and rule and control people? It's by fear. Fear, divide and conquer. And this is where we have so much divide and rule, so much segregation, even from now they're saying sovereign citizens, right? They're saying, there's a whole Four Corners episode about there's apparent sovereign citizens. We're all sovereign beings, but they're creating this term sovereign citizens now. And it's conspiracy theorists, trying to divide people who actually question, what we're getting fed.
Who don't go with what they're being told.
Yeah, now a huge Four Corners documentary recently on ABC, it's investigative journalism here in Australia, and they were talking about, that sovereign citizens are like the new terrorists now, and most people who I know who question reality actually come from a very loving space, and they're actually very, very conscious beings and very high vibration beings. And now, the mainstream are considering, sovereign beings as a threat. Anyone who questions authority is not a threat. They could be terrorists. They take the things into their own hands. And we just had a situation, there's a guy called Desi Freeman in Victoria that just shot down 2 police officers that turned up on his land. Who knows what the real story is, but now they're painting that as an example of, see how these sovereign citizens are dangerous to society, etc. And there's lots of unanswered questions and lots of, the narrative we're getting in the media and what the background story is, I think are 2 completely different things. Mm-hmm. And I actually shared a video from a guy called Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights about this, where obviously our heart goes out to the police officers who got killed. Obviously, we don't want to see anyone get killed. And, however, I'm sure Desi wouldn't have shot these police officers, or maybe he didn't even shoot the police officer. Who knows what really happened, right? Who knows? Maybe he didn't actually shoot them, but that's what we're told, is that he shot them. Maybe it was an inside job. Who knows, right? These are all questions, we need to ask. How do we know it wasn't an inside job and it's being blamed on Desi? Yes, very, very interesting. Most people apparently who knew him said he was a very peaceful man, and he was about to take Dan Andrews, the Premier of Australia. Apparently he was about to take him to court over certain things that happened through COVID. And then suddenly now he's painted out as the monster and targeted because he's questioning authority. And, isn't it interesting, right?
It's so crazy that everybody who tries to expose the truth somehow is disposed of. And then somehow is either a suicide, or they came across an accident, or it was a heart attack. And it's just how stupid are we? How stupid are we at this point that you think you could play in our face? We already know the jig is up. The jig is up. So I think it's now about figuring out a way to silence the voices that are a little bit too loud about the truth. That's going to be the agenda now, is figuring out how to silence the truth and make the lies the new truth.
Yes, exactly. And Corinda, hey, good to see you. He says, yeah, Netflix always drama. And gee, don't you feel the difference when you watch an uplifting film? And I saw a great film the other day called The Friend. I absolutely loved it. It was actually about a guy who committed suicide, and it showed, which is actually quite sad. However, it was actually quite a nice story about the dog that belonged to this man and how the dog was adopted into this lady's life, or the guy that died apparently left the dog to this lady who wasn't a dog person, right? But she took on this dog, and how the dog was grieving over the owner, and how the love that came from this lady to get kicked out of the unit because she had the dog. But as it turned out, she became so close to the dog, and she ended up finding a way to stay in her unit because she said the dog was a service dog that helped her mental health. I thought, what a lovely story, you know, and everyone ended up loving this dog. And it was just a really beautiful story, The Friend. Whereas, you know, I saw Superman the other day as well. Now, Superman is interesting because there's a bit there that Superman gets his power from the sun. I thought, well, that is so cool that is in a mainstream media, you know, Hollywood production. They're saying Superman gets his power from the sun rather than saying, oh, he might get skin cancer from the sun, right? We know how good the sun is for us, right? The vitamin D. And then there's kryptonite that poisons Superman. And I think, you know, there's things that we're poisoning ourselves with mentally, physically, emotionally every single day, which is like the kryptonite in our lives. And often we're not even conscious to it, right? So actually just part of the thing is actually just getting conscious where we've been unconscious. And then when I watch horror films, oh my gosh, I come up watching horror films, which sometimes I accidentally see a horror film. I didn't realize it was a horror film. I thought or whatever's going to be, you know, playing, and I just surprise myself. And then sometimes it's really not a great surprise, and I just know how heavy and how yuck I feel energetically after watching a horror film as opposed to watching a comedy. So that's all media, right? This is all Hollywood. And Out of Shadows was a fantastic documentary about how we've been, you know, controlled by the media and how we've come to believe what we believe, and by the education system and, you know, politics, etc. So, yes, interesting times.
Like you said, there's an overload of information, and it's about sifting through the information now, because there's so much information out there. It's like, what do you choose? And I think at this point too, what is reality? I think you have to find out what your reality is, and not what they tell you your reality looks like.
Right.
Yes, you choose your reality. You choose your thoughts and be conscious of your thoughts. Is what you're saying to yourself, is it empowering or is it disempowering? And, you know, while we're sharing some of this stuff, like, I mean, some of it, I must say, when we start to go down the rabbit hole, when we start to investigate, there's going to be times you're going to get angry. There's going to be times you're going to get frustrated, right? However, the sooner you can turn it to gratitude that you now have this new information, the sooner you'll be able to shift out of that state. Okay. So I think it's important to feel the full gamut of emotions as a human being. This is part of what it's, you know, it's like being a human being, right? We're going to have the highs and lows of our emotions around different things. You know, search engines have been banned in some countries. Yes, that's right, Corinda. Thank you so much for sharing. That's right. How interesting that search engines have been banned, just like some content has been banned in some countries, right? How interesting. I wonder why they'd ban certain search engines. I wonder why. So then you would think, well, why is this banned? And do your own research. And then knowing that information now, Corinda and everyone else, then you can go and look at other search engines, right? Or go to other places, or you can do incognito searches as well on your browser and things like that. So yes, fascinating. The Truth About the Media, Part 2. What are your thoughts tuning in right now about the state of the media and AI? Now, Corinda's asked a question here about what's the difference between narrow AI, general AI, and super intelligent AI? Does anyone have an answer to that question?
I didn't even know there was those three.
There you go.
To me, honestly, AI is AI.
AI, that's right. Super intelligent AI, I'm not quite sure what that is, but I guess AI is getting, well, when you say super intelligent, I mean, they say smartphones. I don't know how smart smartphones are or how smart AI is, but, I actually went on to X the other day, and I put a post up there, and it had an option to use Grok AI to automate an image to go with my post. And the post was, do you prefer coffee or tea? Right? I just thought I'll put out a general question. Let's get some conversation going. Do you prefer coffee or tea? And I went on to Grok to generate AI image for this, and I must have tried about 10 times, and every image it came up with was nothing like what I asked for. And in the end, I thought, this is just a freaking waste of time. This is my thoughts around that AI image generator of Grok. I thought, I asked it to do a picture of me holding up a coffee and tea, and it gave me everything but that. And it gave me a picture of, an Asian guy. It gave me a picture of, an African guy. It's like, female, can you look at my photo? This is what, look up Aldwyn Altuney. Like, I tried all these different ways, because I thought, is there something I'm putting in that's not quite getting what I'm saying here? But it's like I'm talking to a freaking machine. It's like I'm going crazy with conversations in my head, trying to get some logic out of this bloody bot. It's like, so anyway, AI is driving me.
And this is what they want to choose to end up taking over the world at this point.
Yeah.
I can speak to what I think the super AI is. So in the beginnings of the Great Awakening, somewhere around 2020, 2021, I started hearing about this supercomputer. And so basically what this is this supercomputer that they have access to. And it's so there is, I think there is AI connected to this supercomputer. And so what it does is it listens and gathers all the data. It gathers text messages and everything else. So it's the same reason why, the patriotic movements and everything else can say, we have it all. We have it all, because they do. So around the time that the internet came on and we got cell phones, which are really tracking devices and everything else, we got connected into like this whole network thing, right? Well, the interesting thing around this supercomputer, and I'm kind of building a little bit of context around that, is so did the elites. The elites got connected to that. So every text message, every email, every, thing spoken is all recorded and archived. So, the good people who are out there, really trying to protect our Constitution and protect things like that, they really do have it all. Like, they know everything. And so they can use this supercomputer that listens and hears every whisper and different things like that. They can use this supercomputer to predict what could possibly happen in the future, how certain crowds or certain people will possibly react to X, Y, and Z. So they do have that out there. So as far as like super AI, that may not be where you wanted me to go with that. But that's the first thing that came to my mind with that. So that does actually exist. They do have a supercomputer and out there that does, these different things. So,
I mean, when you think about it, your phones are listening to you.
Yes.
Alexa is listening to you.
Yes, absolutely. And these computers soon are going to be sensing our emotions and all of that kind of thing, and actually I would say affecting people's emotions as well. Now Elon Musk has predicted by 2040 there'll be 10 billion humanoid robots. 10 billion, and they're going to be about $20,000 to $25,000 each, and they'll be able to perform nearly any human task. So, things like folding up clothes or putting out your washing or, maybe doing your cooking, all that kind of stuff, these humanoid robots. I mean, that is staggering. 10 billion, that's going to be more than the human population. So basically, we're going to have one robot for every person, potentially, almost one and a half.
Sound like an army.
Yeah, it's a crazy thought to think that. However, whether we like it or not, these robots are being rolled out, and even robots that can give birth, they're testing in China right now, which I shared a post on my socials recently, and people are horrified by it. The fact that they can actually, they've got these robots that can actually basically they're creating babies in these robots. It's insane.
It's almost like making humans less valuable.
Yes, it is. It's dehumanizing the humans, and it's affecting our critical thinking. We are becoming dumber than ever before. I'm sure of it. It's designed to numb and dumb down the our super intelligence. Our best super intelligence is our own brain, and the less we think by popping into Chat GPT and asking it to think for us, which of course it has a place. Look, AI is great with some things, but use your critical thinking. Please exercise your own mind. Read, write, create. All these things. It's almost like it's not being valued anymore. We've become like, the average person scrolls the height of the Statue of Liberty from bottom to top every single day. We've become like these, addicted to social media kind of, human beings, and we've got so much social anxiety. People don't know how to connect anymore. They don't know how communicate with each other without being completely scattered often. And this is generalizations, of course. I know there are a lot of our listeners and viewers that do exercise critical thinking. Just noticed, are you feeling like you're being dumbed down a little bit lately? Or is it, why are there so many cases of dementia and Alzheimer's and people with brain issues and cognitive issues? I mean, fluoride in the water supply is probably one thing. But also, I think when we're not using our critical thinking, we're losing it. We're not using it, we're losing it. All right.
Yeah, it's like a muscle that you have to exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to exercise our brains. Even AI has your information now. Well, that's right. And people are putting their information into AI and creating these AI agents. These AI agents now, you can tell an AI agent to go and do 10 posts on your social media now, and it'll just go and do it. Like things like that. Things that you would normally outsource to a VA are now being done with AI agents on the paid ChatGPT platform and so many other platforms that are rolling out. It's quite insane. Corinda says, yes, even the government is afraid of the people. Also in India, there is flooding. Donald Trump said he has had enough. Why is he still president? Okay, well, the Trump lovers and the Trump haters amongst us. And, there's certain things Trump have done that I've loved and certain things he's done that I haven't loved. And however, I do admire the guy's guts and resilience to speak up no matter what comes his way, because he has been very crucified as a leader. In fact, most crucified I've seen from any leader I've known of in the past, 100 years or so. And he just keeps going, right? And unfortunately, with the negativity we've been seeing through the mainstream media, we've had massive mental health issues. We've got 1 in 3 people with depression. We've got, normally 1 million people take their own lives. We've had 4 times that through the pandemic. Around 4 million people or so taking their own lives now. It's absolutely at epidemic proportions, and a lot of it is because people are not using their critical thinking. They're believing everything that they're hearing in the mainstream media. They think that all of life is doom and gloom, which it certainly isn't, but that's the picture that the media will paint out to you, that 99% of life is doom and gloom. You might get one little positive story at the end of the news bulletin, after nearly the whole bulletin of negative stories. So, really get conscious to what you're consuming and how much you're believing, and trust your gut more than anything. Charles
also stay off the internet.
Yeah, well,
take a break. Yeah. I think we're so consumed by technology that's all there is. It used to be going outside, actually getting some sunlight, reading a book, a physical book, turning the pages. Everything has become so digitalized that we don't even do anything. We don't go out there.
Yeah, exactly. Connecting with nature. Have a day where you're off all devices and just connect with nature. Just get out, get in the ocean, or get out and connect with some birds, or notice all the different shades of green out in nature. If you have some parks around, etc. Hopefully, you're not living in a concrete jungle, although there are many people who do live in concrete jungles. And thank goodness for Central Park in New York, right? Thank goodness for your bits of greenery, even in New York, in the biggest city in the world. Charles is joining us from Hong Kong. I don't know how much greenery there is in Hong Kong, Charles, but hopefully you're seeing and appreciating some of it. Corinda says AI can be very dangerous these days. Yes, it can be. Now, Charles says also helpful to understand the source of our emotions. Yes, absolutely, Charles. The source of our emotions. That's right. What is it that is leading us to be happy, sad, angry? What is it that triggers us, and why is that triggering us? It's important to have some self-awareness and do the personal development work as well. Charles says here, very interesting. I think the modern media landscape is deeply fragmented and polarized. Public distrust is at a historic low. A 2023 Gallup poll found only 34% of Americans trust mass media. That was 2 years ago. A 2022 MIT study found false news stories are 70% more likely to be retweeted than true ones. Go figure. Well, that's interesting. And a lot of people probably share these stories, don't realize that they're false news. They probably think they are true news. That's really interesting. Here, Charles says they already are sensing our emotions. Oh, there you go. AI is sensing our emotions. I looked live on this last week. Oh, thank you, Charles. Okay, we'll have to check that out. There you go. They are sensing our emotions already. Oh, yes, Corinda says, like, we're talking about sex in the first show. Gosh, were we talking about sex in the first show, were we, at one point, Corinda? Okay, I can't remember that. My goodness, did we go there? Okay, AI.
Maybe they do have the sex dolls.
Of course, they do. Goodness. People are falling in love with their AI bots now because they're better than blow-up dolls. They actually speak back to you, and you don't have to. They're obviously much harder to do, and obviously, maybe you can just recharge the bots as well. Maybe you don't need batteries. So, technology. Also, the internet and television can bring the internet and television. That's right, the media that is the internet and television, as well as the technology. Yeah, absolutely, Corinda. Charles says 40% of Hong Kong land is government protected subtropical rainforest. Really, we have beautiful beaches. Oh, well, that's good to know, Charles. When I went to Hong Kong, it was freezing. It was winter time, and I was in the middle of the concrete jungle section of Hong Kong. So that's that there is actually a lot of Hong Kong that is subtropical rainforest. Well, there's probably a lot that Australia could learn from that, because right now they're knocking down trees like never before and building high rises and developing. And unfortunately, the poor koalas and animals are, unfortunately losing their homes, which is very sad. Thank you for sharing. That's great. Great interaction there from our audience. Some other thoughts, Shameer. Now, I want to come back to this, with all of this stuff, right? Coming back to being the best version of themselves. So what are some tips you can give people about that? How can we be the best version of ourselves?
Not internalizing everything that you see. People's opinions of you are people's opinions of you. That doesn't have to be the definition of who you are. I think we have to start getting the inner validation together. You know what I mean? Start doing that shadow work, which means spending that isolation time and getting to actually know you. What triggers you? How do I feel about this? Why, when somebody says this, do I feel this way? When we start asking ourselves the deep questions about ourselves, then we can take care of everything else.
Yes, that self-awareness and those questions, absolutely.
That's everything.
And I think getting clear on what you want. I think a lot of people they just don't know what they want in life. Like, what is it that gives you joy? It could be the simplest things. Do more of what,
and not what somebody else has that you think, if you had that too, you will get joy. Because because you want somebody else's life, you don't know what that's like. You don't know what that's like. You want your life. You want what's meant for you.
Exactly. And don't compare yourself to others, because there is a lot of, we look on social media and we think, oh gosh, that person's so beautiful or so handsome or whatever. I don't know what the guys say, but we look at other people and think, oh gosh, they've got their whole life sorted out. How are they living such amazing lives? But this is where sharing authentically. We all have our low moments. Not everyone shares their low moments on social media. And now we have TikTok filters. And if you see my September Global Good News Challenge, a girlfriend messaged me today. She said, Aldwyn, what's with the lashes and the rouge? I actually shared on my September #1 challenge that I'm using a TikTok filter, which is adding eyelashes and adding some rouge on my face. She's like, what's with the makeup? Well, this is a TikTok filter. Now you don't even have to have makeup. Every time I've done those videos, I'm doing my day 4 today, and I do have makeup on today. So I'll do my day 4 with the TikTok filter and with makeup on, and we'll see the difference. But you know what? I called it out on day 1. I said, you know, I did not feel like doing the Global Good News Challenge. It's late at night. I was tired. I just wanted to go to bed. But then I remembered the TikTok filter, and I thought, because I hopped on there and I just had some fun with it. I had a moment of inspiration, and I thought I'll go and do it. And in the video itself, I stated it. I said I didn't feel like doing this, and I said, by the way, these are not my real eyelashes. This is not the makeup. However, I said, this is my real hair. This is really me, and this is my clothes. But we look at these things, and we look at these, that people turn up in all sorts of ways, and often they're using the TikTok filters. So if you're not confident on camera, you can always chuck a TikTok filter on and get yourself out there.
But also to note that, think about how dangerous this is going to be in the next 5 years, where you could put yourself as anybody.
Well, yes.
Because we already have the danger of, worrying about kids talking to the wrong people on the other end of the computer. And then imagine you FaceTime somebody and they could just show themselves as somebody else. And then you go to meet that kid, and then now all of a sudden that kid is going missing, or they end up dead. Like, technology is becoming the warfare at this point.
That's true, and that people can actually create, talking videos. So someone could put Trump on an AI version of Trump, have him saying lots of things, and people might be thinking, well, is that really Trump saying those things? Or is it an AI version of Trump saying those things? How are we going to know what the real truth is of who we're really seeing, whether it's politicians or influencers?
And that helps the government, though. Because they could push their agenda and have him saying whatever they want him to say, because we already know he says crazy things as it is. And it's like, you know what? Well, he said this. And then once enough people post it and enough news outlets post it, then now is the truth.
Yes, exactly. And this is where it's going to be harder and harder to tell what is the truth. And this is where with sharing with the podcasters like ourselves out there, with sharing on socials, I believe if you are using AI, like, for example, I knew that I looked different in this video. And so I called it out. I said, I'm using a TikTok filter, right? And in fact, I've never seen anyone who's used a TikTok filter actually say that in a live video, interestingly. But I called it out. I said, hey, I'm using TikTok filter. Let's have some fun now. But I said, this is really me under here. So anyone who uses AI like that to, or anyone who uses to impersonate someone else, I believe it should be stated that they're using AI. And I know, like on YouTube now, when you upload videos, it says, is AI content involved here? And it actually asks you to own up. But I wonder how many people actually do own up using AI. What are your thoughts on this, Ken?
Ask the question again.
So talking about AI and actually saying that you're using AI if you're using AI, like if you've got filters.
Okay, so I do I do agree with that. I think that's most likely going to be an implemented policy coming down the line to where you have to. So just as they have things out there that can detect whether you are putting particular content out there and it's AI generated or it's human, so the same they're going to probably do with, the videos and humans and stuff like that. There's already a ton of CGI, computer generated images out there. Already a ton. So all we're doing with AI is kind of taking that up one more level. Okay, CGI has been around for years. They did it with 9/11 on TV. I'm just going to put that out. They already had it on 9/11 on TV. There's certain articles that I've read that suggest that footage of 9/11 came out before it even happened. So CGI's been around for ages. They can fake anything. When what's the name I'm going to give him? Well, I'm not even going to call him, the president. So I'm going to call him the resident. When Biden was the resident. And he was doing so-called speeches at the White House. There were people that caught the fact that on television it was being broadcasted as a sunny day. But people that were local to that were reporting that no, it's cloudy. So a lot of it's CGI. Not only that, there were a lot of times where there were speeches taken from the White House that were actually taken at Black Rock Studios. I think that's the name of it. Where they have staged many, many, many White House settings and movies. So this kind of stuff and the concept has actually been around for years. All we're doing is just adding a robot to it. And yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's concern. But as far as the way I'm thinking of it, a lot of this stuff and concepts has been around for years.
Yes, it's interesting. You know, we're going to be seeing a lot more AI creeping into Hollywood movies, and of course, there were mass protests in LA from actors, etc. You know, AI creeping into into Hollywood, and actors and writers shut down Hollywood. You might remember, 2 years ago, demanding protections from AI. Hundreds of people protested around AI creeping into movies, and yet what's been happening is that the technology has been creeping into TV, movies, and video games. And in fact, 2 films were honored at the Oscars, even use the AI technology, and they're getting notable mentions at the Oscars. There's a great story by BBC you might want to have a look at. AI was Emmy #1 during Hollywood strikes. Now it's in Oscar-winning films. Right. I was thinking, the other day I was walking along the Gold Coast Spit area. I do this long walk on the Gold Coast whenever I can on the beach. And there was a movie set there that's being filmed on the Gold Coast, and it's called The Mosquito Bowl. It's a Netflix World War II film that's currently being filmed on the Gold Coast. And I saw, all these props and what it takes to set up a stage. And I was thinking as I walked past it, now that would be massive amount of money going into setting up the stage, all of that. And how much money would the movie makers save by using AI, right? Not having to pay the actors or to pay for those sets. Or you can see where it's very appealing for people who put in credits together not to use real people and to use AI for the sets and for the special effects. And of course, special effects with AI have been around for ages. However, coming into actually, it'll come to a point probably where we don't need actors, where we don't need set creators, and there's going to be, lots and lots of jobs will be lost because, everything's becoming so digitized.
So I want to be clear on something real quick, and then I want to address a comment that Kurinder made here. But so it wasn't Black Rock; it's Castle Rock Entertainment. So they've done many White House scenes and movies that look real, and they do the same thing to the public a lot of times with these speeches that are so-called in the White House. Secondly, with 9/11, Kurinder, is like, well, yes, it was real. Yes, 9/11 was real. I'm not disputing that in any way, shape, or form. I am disputing about what's always been believed about that. 9/11 was an inside job. It was CIA. I question whether there was even planes involved. Those buildings did not go down from a plane crash. I've actually I saw a reel actually earlier today that proved that was actually impossible for them to go down on a plane attack. They are actually built to withstand that and things like that. So, a lot of things that we were shown around 9/11, I do believe were CGI. So there's that. All right. So I'm done with that bandwagon.
Yes. And what we're talking about here, Kurinder, is what was the agenda behind it. And what happened after that is we saw the war on terror happen. And what's behind the war on terror? Well, there's a lot of money involved, right? And of course, the people who make the weapons, they make a hell of a lot of money from wars happening. And so there's a lot of people profiting behind the scenes. So if you want to know what's going on in the world, follow the money trail. as they say in the Thrive documentaries, follow the money trail, and you'll see what the agendas are behind these things. Yes, very interesting. Now, I've just shared into the comments there the link for that BBC article. AI was number one during Hollywood strikes. Now it's in Oscar-winning films. The media that we consume. Now, Corinda made a great comment here as well about the podcasters. Don't always believe everything you see in the media. Instead, listen to real podcasters like us, genuine stories. Unlike Sky News, BBC News, or CNN, which some people say is constant negative news. That's what
my gosh, CNN's the worst.
We offer authentic perspectives. When you tune into us and other streamers, you're hearing real stories.
CNN, the pedo network. That's pretty much what they are.
The pedo network. Yep, everyone's in bed together. The issue is they're in bed together with very young children, and often these children get treated absolutely horrifically and even killed. Sex slavery and sacrifices, very satanic behind, some very evil stuff going on behind some of this.
Yeah, no, I agree. If I were to speak what the actual language of Pizzagate was and what each things mean, there are people that are watching the show right now that their stomach would turn. Pizzagate, I think a lot of times, especially with Pizzagate and what's going on in Hollywood and all the things, that they do to their children, I think that it nowadays kind of brushes over people's heads. Oh yeah, I know about that. Oh yeah, I know about that. Do you really? Because if you really studied the terms on what a pizza is, what pepperoni is, what a hot dog is, what cheese means, what sauce is. Do you really have you really looked into that? My Lord, it is stomach turning. I can't find the right word to use for it. Yeah.
I know.
It's aggravating.
It's sick stuff. The Fall of the Cabal talks about. There's lots of great documentaries out there. In fact, you'll find some of them in our Facebook group, Conscious Community Global. Some of the documentaries that'll blow your mind about some of this stuff. And Corinda says here, Xbox games can be dangerous. They depict violence and can influence individuals to mimic harmful actions in real life. So some believe that if shooting games didn't exist, there would be fewer incidents of shootings and stabbings. I think in some ways it almost encourages.
I agree, but I disagree.
I think in the same way, I agree and I disagree. And one of the reasons why I disagree is because I recently actually did an interview with this one guy who has got a phenomenal niche in the market and one that I've never seen before in anybody else. And he actually went through my boot camp. He actually, what he does as a profession, and I think we might have interviewed him. I think we did. Daniel Baker.
Yes, we did a few episodes ago. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I can mention his name. Okay. I was kind of dancing around it. I'm like, can I mention his name? I want to be careful. So he takes people that have a lot of video game experience, and he shows them how to take all the skills that they've learned in those video games, building teams, working on, getting to levels that are top in the world and different things like that. And he then shows them how to take that into the entrepreneurial business world and to rise to the levels that they want using the skills that they've learned in games. So, and he's very good at it. And he's got some phenomenal things to share with people around that. I think in my my personal expert interview with him, I even let him use me as an example. I said, all right, well, I play this, and this, and this. What does that say about me? And he was able to just unpack and unfold that. And just like, dang, I never really thought of it that way. Wow, that's why I'm so good with that. And that's, so I mean, I think I can see the caution that some people have. And in some ways there is caution with that. Like if you're spending hours and hours and hours and days and stuff like that, just playing video games and nothing else. And, there might be something to say about that. but maybe an hour or two a day. Yeah. I don't know. That's very shaky ground. Shameer, you kind of had the same, agree, disagree as I did. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
I think it's about who has it, who has the video game, and the mindset of who has it, right? So let's talk about how a lot of kids, 12 years old, are playing Grand Theft Auto. You shouldn't be playing that game at that age.
Mm.
They shouldn't be watching certain kind of movies. But we're in the age where, as parents, you are letting your kids watch violent movies, but then want to blame it on the video game that you bought your child. You bought your child this video game about shooting and guns. And we also have to remember this country was built on violence. Before there was any technology, people were already shooting each other, killing each other with samurai swords. It didn't start with the video games. The violence was already here. I just think it needs to be managed. You can't have a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old playing Call of Duty and then expect them to just be regular. Like when I was in the military, I never played Call of Duty until I got out of the military. That's actually when I started playing Call of Duty. Do I go out in the streets and shoot people? I do not. I do not. Also, when I was younger, my mom would not allow me to play certain games. That was just a no-no. That was just a no-no. So we have to stop blaming the video games when we are buying these things for our children. You have to take some ownership. At some point, you're going to have to say, okay, I can't blame my child being violent on the movies they watch. Who allowed them to watch that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
You know it's
I mean?
the same it's just, Shameer, I agree with you. It's the same concept of let's say Billy goes and crashes his car into some woman's car and now the woman's dead. Okay, we need to ban all cars.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Cars are dangerous.
With video games, it has to do with the actual individual. If the individual is screwed up, then it's the individual, the classic argument with guns. Oh, guns cause violence. No, they don't. It is a mechanical device without a soul. It cannot cause violence. It is the person behind it. It's the mental mess up of the person behind it. Yeah.
Yes,
so
and that's where critical thinking is critical because there are a lot of people that watch aggressive, violent movies and play violent video games, and if you do too much of it, that's like your version of reality will be like that, right? And that can really affect how you go out into the community potentially, because that becomes like your normal view of life and becomes normalized in some ways. However, I think everything in moderation. I think if you're going to indulge in that kind of stuff, I think it's better that you get your aggression out in the game rather than that in real life. If you want to, shoot it, if you feel that anger coming up and you want to release it, that a video game is a very safe way to do that, right? Because you're not actually killing anybody. So I think, it's an interesting topic, that one, as to, it is the individual that potentially needs to take responsibility for their actions, whether they're in a game or whether, they're not in a game. Life in some respects is the game. However, I always advocate to be kind to yourself and others. And we know that hurt people. Mm-hmm. And this is where it's important to do what you love, because if you're doing more of what you love, you're not going to be angry. You're going to be more joyful. You're going to be in an elevated state of consciousness. And you will be kinder to yourself and kinder to others. But when you're very stuck in life, when you've got a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of fear, a lot of issues of rejection, perhaps, not feeling good enough, then that could definitely be projected as putting other people down to potentially feel better about yourself. That's where that self-awareness is really, really important, no matter what media you're consuming, because the media will keep coming at you, right? I mean, unless you just switch off all social media, switch off all media, which some people don't watch any mainstream media anymore because a lot of it is so negative. Most people are also on social media. Like we have now, there's over 5 billion people in the world that are active social media users now, right? So we have a lot of active social media users. That's probably 2/3 of the population are active social media users. And this is the new media, and traditional media are turning to social media to get their stories, because we do believe people we know, Corinda. And sometimes when we watch politicians, we think we know them, or we watch certain TV hosts, we think we know them because we're constantly inviting them into our space. However, generally the people we actually we are going to believe more in general. However, always question everything. If something feels a bit off to you, most likely it probably is a little bit off. The food is not healthy at all because it's high in fat and oil. Yes, any food's high in fat and oil are toxic, as Ken will
Actually,
say.
No.
Certain fats and oils.
Certain fats, yes.
Let's
Foods
clarify.
that are high in good saturated animal fats, no. Those are absolutely good for us. 100%. And it also depends on what kind of oil you're using. If you're using the industrial seed oils, it's full of what's called polyunsaturated fatty acids. These literally cause chronic inflammation, severe metabolic damage, and severe oxidation to your cholesterol cells. Why would a race want to turn away from foods that has served us for thousands of years and our ancient ancestors for thousands of years? Now, I will preface this for the benefit of Aldwyn here, who is mostly a vegetarian. Do I believe that the cows and animals and everything need to be treated better? Absolutely. But as far as I'm concerned, God placed animal foods on this earth and gave us, gave us the go-ahead to eat those, and they are full of nutrition. Study after study after study proves that eating good saturated fats is actually nutritious for us, and it's actually good for us. Study after study after study also proves that a person, most people, not all, most people that go vegan or vegetarian somewhere down the line end up nutritionally deficient. And, so that's what I'll say about that. Sorry, I cannot let that go silence there, because that, no.
Yes, I immediately went to when I saw fat and oil, I immediately thought junk food and all the crap fat and the crap oil. Yes, Shameer?
It's about doing your research. You know what I mean? Not taking everything as you see and say, okay, this is what it is. Research. Look into what you're eating and also how your body is feeling. Only you know your body. We have to start getting more in tune with ourselves and realizing how we feel after we eat certain foods. And also grow it yourself. If you don't trust anything, grow it yourself.
Yes,
amen.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We need to get back to that nowadays. We need to get our own chickens. We need to get our own gardens and go back to...
But they don't want you farming.
Right. The way it used to be apparently back then is lots of people would have neighborhood gardens, and they would all share with one another. They would trade, and that's kind of how it works. They don't want that happening because that means they're not in control anymore.
Yes, that's right. It's all about control, having people live in fear and etc. So
keeping you sick.
Yeah, exactly. The sickness industry. We went into great detail, Corinda, on oils, seed oils, etc. We did a few episodes about this early on in the Total Truth Show episodes. So have a look back at some of our earlier episodes. We've chatted in detail.
I think it's episode 1 or 2, the one we did
on
it
was way back. Fascinating.
I'm going to look into that because I need to see that.
Oh, it's fascinating. And most people aren't blamed, right? Because they're eating a lot of these oils without even realizing, because the oils are in everything. I'm actually shocked as I've been reading labels how much these vegetable oils are just rife in our food. It's insane.
You're welcome, by the way. I'm the one that turned you on to start turning the freaking thing over.
Yes. I've definitely been doing a lot more of that since your boot camp, Ken. So, yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
And Shameer, if you want to take a deeper dive with that, you jump into my boot camp yourself.
Yes. And Corinne says religious freedom can also lead to challenges and conflicts. Yeah, in fact, religions, there have been a lot of wars over religion, and most deaths across the world have been through democides, from the government-led deaths have led to most people dying as well. So yes, religion can definitely, I do believe in God, I believe in more spirituality. I believe there's one personally overall God, and I think we just have different stories around that, and that can lead to, this righteousness, like my God is better than your God, or this is the right God, or if you don't get born again, you're going to go to hell, right? There's some very fanatic born again sort of Christian groups that I've been involved in the past, where they're like, if you don't get born again, you're going to go to hell.
Yep, same. Right? I grew up in a Christian home. My mom is from Barbados, so when she came to New York, we automatically it was Christianity, and I grew up in the Christian church. From my church was a small church, then it grew into a mega church, and just some of the things I saw kind of turned me off from religion to the point where COVID. That's why I'm so happy about COVID. That's when I really got more into spirituality and knowing sense of self, and actually getting more into the inner me, the me.
One thing that I'll speak into that. I've got to speak into that as well. So if you don't become born again, you're going to hell and all that other stuff. I've said this before. I will say it again. That is not the gospel. That is not true Christianity. That does not show God's love. Okay, that's not what I believe, and that's not what I stand for. And I will be absolutely fire bold and say that's not the gospel. The gospel that I know of is that Jesus came, he died, he rose again, and he came for you. That's the gospel. To bring it about in a way that says, convert or go to hell, that doesn't even show the love of God. That doesn't even show the love that I know God is. And so I've got to take a stand against that and go, that's not the gospel I follow. Secondly, Christianity, at least for me, true Christianity has nothing to do with a religion. Nothing. It is a relationship with Christ. And that's what I really feel like I have, is a relationship with Christ. I don't follow Christ for religion or anything like that. Religion is man's way of saying, I can make it to God by just doing this and this and this and this and this. When you get around it and behind the curtain and you tear down the veil, that is what is behind every religion. Eventually doing this and this and this, whatever it is, to make it to heaven, to become your own God. Christianity is not about that. Christianity is the one belief that has a savior that came down to save a people that he loves. And so I speak against the messages that are out there that say, come to, convert or come to Christ or go to hell. That's not the loving message of the gospel. So anyhow, sorry, off my bandwagon with that.
You, Ken. And just like ISIS, they control everything. And yes, God is God. And look, I think churches are great to bring people together in community, etc. We've had a lot of common law groups come together through the whole pandemic, and people love community, and I think we need more of that moving forward. And I think need more love. Diamani Grant on Facebook, nice to see you there. Thank you for all the love. Definitely more love, because as you were sharing there, Ken, too, I was thinking, well, how, like they're saying that Out of Shadows movie, why do we believe what we believe? Like, I'd say most people who are Christians have never met Jesus, right? I'd say everyone, because the story of Jesus is so long ago, right? So we've never met Jesus, or we've never met Buddha, or we've never met whatever people's beliefs are, and yet people who are in different religions or have different beliefs, spiritual beliefs, etc., we have beliefs, and we think, okay, well, where do these beliefs come from? They come from, maybe our upbringing, maybe, certain movies we've seen, maybe from the Bible, right? Why do we believe what we believe? And it's always interesting to sort of question, why do I believe this? And not that there's anything wrong with what you believe, because that always works for you with whatever you believe. And I'm just giving you as an example, again, it just made me think, have a relationship with Christ, okay? And where does that where, whatever your beliefs are around anything, whether it's, spirituality, whether it's life, whether it's the media, where do our beliefs come from? And generally they come from our own experiences, from our upbringing, from our surroundings, from what we've learned online, or what we feel into. There's a million different ways we come to our beliefs. So I think that's very interesting to question what we believe to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and come with love always, because I'm sure most people are doing the best they can with the knowledge they have, right? So if someone has a different belief to you, then be kind, be compassionate, be curious.
Just be good people.
Yeah, be curious about, why do they believe what they believe? And hey, if it serves them to believe that, if they feel good in believing that, if it makes their life more joyous in some way, well, fantastic, go for it, right? And just be open to potentially, different beliefs that you might actually have, or be open to, and this with everything, right? Be open to maybe what you believe to be true, maybe it isn't true. And maybe when you're presented with other information, maybe you will start to question your version of reality in a kind, compassionate way to yourself too, because I think constantly learning and growing. We're only here for such a short snippet of time when you think about eternity. We're all just here for a snippet of time, and whatever your beliefs are, that they've been part of what has helped you survive life, what has helped you become who you are in life. And I think it's important also to be grateful for everything that has brought us to this point, and to not be with regret in any way, because it's all a learning. And in fact, the challenges is where we learn the most often and where we grow the most. So also welcome the challenges in life, because you're going to get them. And how we respond to those challenges is absolutely crucial. We will be wrapping up shortly. Okay. Corinne said it's not the message that was conveyed in the religious text. If you believe in one thing, then you should also believe in other related ideas. Well, you could, right? Watch the word should too, Corinda, because sometimes we should all over ourselves. But you could, right?
I like the way you phrase that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That was more smooth too.
Oh my God.
You could be open to other related ideas, right? Without making yourself wrong about, like, I should do this, I should do that. Because it's got a very heavy energy, the whole should thing, right? Yes, a different mindset these days. Yeah. And the world, our version of the world, what is the world? A lot of people think the world is the media.
Right.
Ken's running off to the bathroom. We learn a lot from Google. Yes, we do. We learn a lot from search engines. We learn a lot from social media. And, I'm really grateful for that, because now we are getting a different opinion to just the mainstream. Thank goodness we're not just having the mainstream media as our primary source of information. I mean, I remember back in the days of the Encyclopedia Britannica, where we had,
we had them on the shelf.
Yeah, we had them all on the shelf, and we'd learn from the Encyclopedia Britannica. That's where we got that information, which was probably written 10 years previously. It certainly wasn't the latest news, but any of the historical information, of course, most likely would have been true. So, yeah, fascinating, the changing face of too. Shameer, now I know I've been rambling a lot in this show. So, anything else you want to share about the media part two?
I mean, honestly, look at where all the information is coming from. There's I think 5 different channels that own all the other channels. So when you think about it, everything is just reframed and just shoved back to you a different way, but it's all the same thing. And we really need to start doing our research and looking into what are we seeing and why are we seeing it and why at this time, right? Because everything is on purpose. Nothing is a mistake.
Yes, great point. Yes, who owns the media organization? Who's behind them? Who's funding them? Right, very, very interesting. Now, Corinda said earlier on here, he said even there's some of them are fake on there. Yep, some fake profiles, AI profiles. There's an AI man in Microsoft Teams now. Yes, indeed. And, these AI agents are creeping into, people's websites. And look, in some ways, if an AI agent can answer my question around a business very quickly and easily, because we are trying to information instantly, right? So if you can go to a website and find easily, information about a certain product without actually having to talk to someone, well, I think that can save people a lot of time, and it can be helpful in some ways. I think the AI can be helpful in some ways. I think the main thing is to exercise your critical thinking when you're using the AI tools, and Just don't just rely on technology to think, basically, or to feel even. Use your own critical thinking, exercise your mind. Different ways to exercise the mind. Well, exercise the body is a great way to exercise the mind, right? Getting the blood flow, eating healthy, etc. Getting out in the sunshine like Superman does and gets his power, right, from the sunshine, and clean water and all those kinds of things. Family connections, great relationships, etc. These are all really, really important. Yes, now, Corinda says, when are we going to do a show together? Thank you for that, Corinda. Thanks for being so, so what's the word? Participating so fully in this show. It's great to see all your comments come through and everyone else who has joined us as well. We will be wrapping up shortly, but Corinda has asked, when are we going to do a show together? Well, possibly soon, Corinda. Reach out, send us a PM. Let's chat off here. Corinda does a great show too called the Empowerment Extend Show, which I've been on. Great to see you, Corinda, as always. And yes, even though other mental health issues are impactful, I'm not sure what you're saying. I think there might be a second part of that message. Yes, mental health issues are impactful. Well, the media can affect your mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
And notice the media you're consuming, and this could be music too. It could be music, it could be videos, it could be, media basically is any platform where it's a mass distribution of information. Okay, so it could be in any way we're receiving our information. And yes, it will affect your mental health potentially if you're consuming a lot of negative stuff or music that's really aggro, right? Now, when I was a very rebellious teenager, I loved the aggro music because I was feeling very aggro, and it expressed. I used to love the punk music and all of that when I was a kid. Nowadays, I don't. Right, nowadays, I much prefer the more peaceful music. I'm showing my age now. It helps to calm me down. Sometimes I play some relaxing music in the background when I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety, and I can get so much more work done because I'm so much more focused, so much more relaxed. That relaxation music is brilliant. So let's start to wrap up now. Shameer, any final thoughts before we share how people can connect with you?
No, just look into everything you see. Don't believe it. Trust nothing. Trust nothing.
Amen.
Yes, trust nothing and no one. Do your own research. Right?
Trust the energy. Trust the energy. Trust the energy.
Yes, trust your energy. Trust your gut
Question everything. It's what we stand for at the Total Truth Show. Question everything. Look things up for yourself. Do the research. Don't stop believing mainstream media as the end all be all. End are those days. Gone are those days. It's dead. It's time to become the people that we once were. Somehow through the years down the line, we got complacent, and that time is over because of our complacency, we are in and having the problems that we have now. So that's it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, how can people connect with you, Shameer?
Shameer Empowers You on Facebook and IG, and ShameerEmpowersYou.com. Everything is there. Everything you need to access me is there.
Lovely. And for those on the audio, because we do put this on Spotify and it also goes on BitChute, Rumble, Shameer Empowers You is spelled SHAMER, Empowers, EMPOWERS, is YOU.com. Thank you for that, Shameer. Do you have a quote you'd like to share with us today? An inspiring quote?
Fear is a product of the thoughts we create.
Nice one. Fear is a product of the thoughts we create. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Shameer. It's been so great having you on our show for the second time.
Appreciate it.
Part
You're
2
welcome, my friend.
The truth about the media. And now over to Ken. Ken, how can people connect with you, or any final thoughts on our topic?
Final thoughts. I think I already gave my final thoughts around stuff, and so how you can connect with me is through www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. And at the very, so there's going to be 4 buttons on that page. And the very first button that you can click on is a button to join my mini educational bootcamp series. which, if you don't know anything about me, I've lost 62.5 pounds and I've kept it off for 7+ years now without a diet and having that be sustainable. So how, though? How did I become the 5% of people that have been able to keep the weight off? Because I've been able to do it for 7 years. So right now I'm giving away my 3 secrets to help you to lose weight, feel energized, and get healthy without starving or dieting. In just 3 one-on-one sessions with me, I expose the 3 biggest lies that are keeping people sick, stuck, and overweight, because that's how that industry makes money. And I'm showing them how they can fuel their body God's way and break free so they can finally keep the weight off for life and have more freedom than they ever thought before in their food choices. So you can connect with me through that. Join my boot camp. It's extremely reasonably priced. The other buttons on there, there's a button on there to book a free strategy call with me. Hey, check that out. Maybe you're not quite ready for the boot camp. Book a free strategy call with me. Let's unpack what your next steps look like. The last 2 are, there's a button on there to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then there's a button on there to connect with me on Facebook. So either way, you get into my world. www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. My quote for today is straight out of my boot camp. And because we did talk about some food stuff today as well. So as much as it is important to fact check the media, if you will, and to do the research for yourself, so it's important for you to turn the freaking thing over at all times, everything. I don't care if you've bought in it for years and you've always thought it was healthy. Pull it out of your cupboard, turn it over, know what you're putting into your body. That's it.
Yes, read the label. And you might need a magnifying glass. I must say my eyesight's not as great as it was once upon a time. But, anywhere where there's 3 numbers in a row, it's generally not good, right? So if you've got a lot of those numbers on your ingredients, there's crap most likely in your food. So, yes. So much misleading packaging as well. It's extraordinary how much misleading information is on. You might think you're eating something healthy, but then when you actually turn it over, you realize how much crap is in the food. Yeah, so really, the quickest food you'll have is straight from the tree or the plant straight into your body. That's ideal. And organic food is always best. So if you can get your own food growing at home is always fantastic. And as having chickens at home, I do have 5 chickens at home. And they're not going to end up on our dinner plate, these ones, because they're our pets. However, we do have 1 or 2 roosters because we've started to hear the crowing. They're only 3 months old. We're not sure which ones are the roosters yet because they're all very similar. So, and the crowing is so sporadic. It's really hard to pick which one is crowing. But in suburbia in Southport, we're not meant to be having roosters. So we're looking for a home for these 1 or 2 roosters once we decide exactly which ones and determine which ones are actually the roosters, because obviously they wake everyone up at 6 a.m. with their crowing. So we keep them in suburbia, unfortunately. We're looking for a good home where they're not just going to end up on a dinner plate because they're only babies. They're only 3 months old and they can live up to 10 years of age, chickens, believe it or not. But the ones that are bred for their meat, they usually only last 1 or 2 months. They don't keep them alive very long at all when they're bred for their food, which is extraordinary. They're killed very young. But anyway, that's a whole other story, maybe another episode. Corinda's saying, what's the next topic? Well, let's see what the next topic is. We may not know exactly what our topic is yet because things change from any moment, but stay tuned, Corinda.
I know what our next topic is.
There you go. Ken actually has it. Well, he'll look that up for you.
We already have a guest booked for that. The next show is my guest, and we are going to be featuring Justin Bulliam, and he's going to be talking about the truth about cash infusions.
Cash infusions. Well, there you go. Corinda, ask and you shall receive. So tune in for that. And when's that coming up, Ken? When's our next show? That'll be another week or 2, most likely.
That is American time, Wednesday the 17th at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. Australian time is going to be Thursday the 18th, and I have no clue what time that is for you.
I think that'll be 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time the next day. So So tune in for that. We always announce it on our Facebook, LinkedIn. We stream this to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So on that point, for where you can connect with me, if you want those alerts, then go to my YouTube channel right here. It's Aldwyn Altuney Media Queen TV. And if you go to my Linktree /Aldwyn, that's got all of my links, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. You'll see there a link to our Facebook group, Fear to Freedom. We've just put out a book called Fear to Freedom, Series 1, Conscious Creators Manifesting Magic. This is what happens when you get conscious, is you create remarkable things in your life. And really, don't we all want to have a great life? Connect on that there. You can get a Kindle version, or you can get the printed copy as well of that amazing book we've done with 13 authors from across Australia. Also, we have the Global News Challenge, which is a free challenge every month where you can share gratitude and good news and lift your energy and help to decrease depression and suicide rates. I've personally had depression and had friends who have taken their own lives by the age of 45, and this is why I'm such a stand for good news, for gratitude, for lifting your energy and lifting the energy of people around you. So you can participate in that. The details are all linked in there. And if you want to be seen, heard, and known, then reach out and let's chat about how I can help you through my media business. We do all sorts of interviews and marketing, etc. as well. So reach out and just send me a PM or a DM on Instagram, and we can chat more about that. Now, my today is from Malcolm X. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the minds of the masses. So media can control the minds of the masses. And actually the word government means mind control, believe it or not. So government and media often go hand in hand with the propaganda that's being pushed out. So question everything, friends, question everything. We hope you've enjoyed today's show. Corinne, my groups. Thank you, Corinne. And check out the Conscious Community Global Facebook group too for a whole heap of documentaries that'll blow your mind and wake you up to all sorts of information that you probably had no idea about. There's a whole heap in the featured section of the Conscious Community Global Facebook group, which you'll see also linked in my Linktree /Aldwyn. And Total Truth Show is on Spotify. Please connect with us there. If you've enjoyed the show, please review it. We'd love some reviews on Spotify, or share the love. Share this video wherever you're watching it right now, or audio. Please share with your friends. Help to wake the world up and help to encourage people to live lives they love. And let us know what you get out of the show. It's love to hear from you. We love these being interactive shows. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined us live as well. Corinda, so great for all those comments. Really appreciate all of that. We have also had Diamani Grant. Thank you so much for all the love there, Diamani. Really appreciate you. And Charles, of course, is another regular viewer of ours. Charles Caldwell as well from Hong Kong here with his amazing comments as well. Make sure you get out and connect with nature, I say today, and take some deep breaths. Hey, at the end of the day, life can always be worse, right? So be grateful for what you have. Think of the poor people in Gaza who've got no food right now, who're starving and scrambling for food, or people in war-torn zones around the world. Let's bear a thought for those people and be grateful for what we have, and be grateful to be able to wake up today and experience another amazing day on the planet. Any final words, Shameer or Ken? No? Well, that's a wrap. That's a wrap on our episode 115. Thank you so much, Shameer, our amazing special guest all the way from Brooklyn, New York, and Ken, my co-host from San Diego. It's been fantastic to be with you today. Have an extraordinary day or night wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye for now.